Korb, everyone. Welcome to Etudes for Innovation, Opus 9. As many of you know, Etudes for Innovation is my favorite part of Kin Global, and that's saying a lot. But this Etudes will, in fact, become my favorite Etudes, probably forever, because in addition to my lovely mother, Marilyn, and wife, Ada, my very lovely daughters, Jolie and Sage, have joined us. So Jolie and Sage, 6 and 7 and a half, are taking piano and becoming musical. And you girls, you know how much music has meant to me in my life. Your mother and I will support any interest you have in music. Anything you'd like to do, we'll be behind you, except for one thing. Never date a jazz musician. Okay? Just remember that. Just remember that. So Kristin just performed the classic tune Just in Time. Coincidentally appropriate because 9 years ago, Etudes arrived just in time to become the classic arts component of Kin Global. In music, an etude is an exercise, but it must have also aesthetic merit, sort of like Chopin's Etudes. The etude here is designed for our Kin delegates, you, stretching thinking about innovation with award-winning artists from diverse genres. Some of tonight's etudes speak directly to our theme, foresight, some of them simply to the vast space of innovation. But rather than suggesting how you should interpret them, we'll present them to you, and your job, your etude, is to define them in your own environment. Our first global guest this evening, an American who comes from her adopted home of Copenhagen, extends the great jazz tradition of that city, and it is a significant one. Her world-class pedigree, former protege of the great bassist Ray Brown, Oscar Peterson trio, she went on to become one of the very first innovative female jazz bassists, and then went beyond that to sing while playing. She combines the high frequencies of the female voice with the low frequencies of the bass fiddle, plus complementary phrasing, range, and timbre, all results of innovation by those who came before her, as well as herself. As you can see and hear, the glass ceiling that once applied to women in terms of jazz instruments, other than the piano, has been shattered. Kristin Korb. Kristin, in a few minutes, you'll demonstrate many things for us, but one question comes to mind. Why do you think there was this lack of women playing, especially this instrument, for so long?
I think it was mostly a lack of awareness on the part of the public. Women have been playing instruments for a very long time. But it does seem that of late we have people like Esperanza Spalding, who surpass just even the jazz genre, but have been taking their music and this instrument to other places. But it is funny to me that it's been incorporated with the voice as well, so you have to sing and play in order to...
Right, and there's something about, because not just women, man, I've rarely seen a bassist. They usually stand in the back with sort of this weird look on their face, and they're not singing like you are. What is it? Is there something about playing with this instrument that differs from, say, a piano that would make it more difficult to vocalize at the same time?
Yeah.
Good. That was a yes or no question. Never ask a yes or no question.
No,
so please
there's
explain.
actually Jay Lenhart, who's out of New York and a wonderful bassist and an okay singer, wrote a song, "It's impossible to sing and play the bass." Because the nature of the bass is this is the heartbeat of the band. You've got to have the pulse, you have to outline the chord changes, you're trying to hold everybody together. So you're listening and you're guiding and you're shaping everyone to this common goal of getting through the music together and in that sense of play. And then when you're singing on top of it and singing jazz, you're improvising.
Right.
And so you have to really think about it in terms of kind of a counterpoint with the bass, with the voice, and you don't want to do everything in the same way, so you want to move in opposite directions. And then also play this in tune because, there's no actual markers on the fingerboard. So is the voice out of the tune? Is the bass out of tune? Which needs to be fixed? And So it's,
So you need to listen in more directions as well as keep everybody together at the same time.
oh yeah.
What drew you to the instrument in the first place?
I was a guitar player, and I heard, when I was in 6th grade, I heard the East Junior High Vocal Jazz
And I'm
Ensemble.
sure they were fantastic.
They were the coolest ever. And they were singing all this scatting and all this stuff, and I was like, oh. They had a student band, and I was like, I want to be with them. They're having so much fun. So I said, I called the choir director, and I said, Mr. Newberg, I would like to play guitar in the choir. He says, no.
Really?
Yeah, I said, well, why not? It's not a guitar, it's a bass guitar. If you want to play in the band, it's got to be a bass guitar. Well, bass guitar. Bottom 4 strings of the guitar, how hard can that be? And as soon as I got into the choir and was playing the bass and learning about it, I fell in love with what the instrument could do and the function of that supportive role of being kind of in the background, but you control everything.
Well, that's what my wife likes. That's on tape, honey. I'm sorry. Thank you for that. So, to integrate Kristin into our first 2 etudes, I have the pleasure and pain to introduce you to our colleague and friend of the kin, Jeffrey Ernstoff. 9 years ago, Ernstoff and I were chatting about how we bring the arts into this great event, and he had an idea, and that was Etudes. Each year he conceives, writes, directs, and performs for us. Simply put, Etudes is his baby, but he's also a great collaborator. I provide the theme for Kin Global about a year in advance. He comes back with concepts. We iterate on them. Artists, ideas, genres, and then from this, he creates the whole program, a unique, beautiful experience each year. Ernstoff's partial credits include a master's from Harvard, multiple fellowships in the National Endowments for the Arts, 10 years as writer and special events creative director for Radio City Music Hall in New York City, creative and/or music director for 5 Super Bowl halftime shows, World Cup Soccer, Special Olympics, creative director for Fortune Global Forums held on 4 continents, performances and programs at the Lincoln Center in New York, the Rose Bowl, Mount Rushmore, Boston Symphony Hall, the White House, of course here as well. Creative consultant to corporations from Pepsi, Omnicom to Mercedes-Benz, and also he plays a lot of different instruments. Ladies and gentlemen, Jeffrey Ernstoff.
Sounding a bit redundant. My beautiful wife, Ada, and my kids, Sage and Jolie, hi. My wife, Sonia, is here somewhere. Where are you, dear? Okay. Love you. Okay. Hi. Thanks for coming. We call this next etude Getting Your Groove On. We're going to get inside the music to hear what makes it tick, in order to reveal a form of innovation and innovative foresight that's had a powerful impact in the world of music. So, here we go. First, terminology. In jazz, the term groove is often used as the primary stylistic adjective, a swing groove, a funk groove, a Latin groove, for the type of music that's being played. But what's at the heart of any groove is the relationship, really, between the bass and the drums. They work together to define it, and if that groove is well established, the other instruments layer all kinds of things on top of it. So let's add a drummer, get a couple of grooves going, and hear what we can build on top of them. So, joining us now is a multi-Grammy winner who's often been described by his international colleagues as the drummer's drummer. He's known around the world for his virtuosity, for his vision, and just plain good taste. He is and has been the featured drummer with, this is a partial list, Weather Report, The Stan Kenton Man, Steely Dan, Diana Krall, Steps Ahead, Yellow Jackets, soloist with the Chicago Symphony, numerous film scores, World Cup Soccer, and so many more stellar artists. But he's not just an old pro resting on his laurels. He's the leader of the great Dr. Trio, nominated for a Grammy last year and winner of 2 European Grammys just this week. He's professor of jazz studies at the University of Southern California. He performed in our first Etudes 9 years ago, and he's been back 3 times now. Now, here's a point I would like to make. People often say that an artist, a musical artist, plays a certain kind of music. But when it comes to jazz and other forms of contemporary music, he is not someone who plays the music. Like a precious few pioneers, he is the music. It's a very important distinction. The music lives in him, okay? And most importantly, he's kin family. So please welcome Peter Erskine. So, Peter, would you and Kristin please start off with what most folks find the most basic jazz groove of all, a swing groove. So, Peter, what's happening there in terms of how you make it work effectively? When it comes to playing a swing groove, what separates the master from the amateur? Or better yet, what makes it jazz?
Well,
Uh-oh, when he stands up.
that was my clue to turn my mic on.
Okay.
We tend to think of jazz as being a triplet-based music. So you have a primary pulse that we play boom, 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 boom. The bass player establishes the time. We like to say that the drummer enforces it. It's kind of a Beauty and the Beast relationship here. But within this primary pulse, jazz is thought of as having a triplet feel. Doodle 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 doodle. But in fact, the triplet is not enough to explain the jazz feel. The Italians have a lovely word. It's called the legato. And this smoothness of the rhythm gives it a more forward motion kind of a feel. And how can I explain it? Does anyone here remember Lawrence Welk? Plenty of triplets there, but that's not jazz. Jazz is more of like the so part of what makes it jazz is attitude. Now, to put it in layman's terms, I don't know the football fight song for Northwestern University, I'm sorry to say, but I teach at the University of Southern California, and the football fight song there goes something like this. So the marching band plays that with an attitude, and also with a style. They don't play it ta 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 ta. Football players would all be scratching their helmets. So it's an understanding of the vocabulary and playing it with a certain kind of feel. Feel being a mechanical reality that musical imagination brings to life.
Okay, so the message there is that Lawrence Welk had worn sunglasses, he would have been him. Okay, so, no, but you understand that a lot of this business between a triplet, bucket, and boom, ba-doom, 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 there's a slight little difference between those two things, and that's what makes all the difference. Peter and Kristin, could you please play a Latin groove for us? Okay, so Same question. When it comes to playing a Latin group, what separates the master from the amateur? What makes it Latin?
Same thing? 1, 2, 1.
That would be the amateur.
That's bad. So no matter what you play, you want to be musical. But in so-called Latin music, the music that we otherwise refer to as Afro-Caribbean, there's a word in Spanish, clave, and the literal translation is key. And the clave is the key to the rhythmic foundation. So for this beat that we're going to play later in Green Dolphin Street, I'll play you the clave. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. A jazz Latin beat is kind of a variation of that, but kind of respecting the key to the rhythm.
Okay, so clearly here now we have a swing groove and a Latin groove that we've explored, and those are just two of many, many possible grooves. And once upon a time, once a groove was set for a tune, that groove continued all the way through the tune, all swing, all Latin. But eventually, innovative jazz musicians decided to juxtapose two grooves in the same piece. I'm not talking about two tempos where it went into double time or half time. I'm talking about two different grooves. And at first they did it with tunes that already existed, and then when they went on to compose their own. For the keenest of these jazz innovators, it was really foresight that envisioned jazz composers being able to have a free-flowing currency between multiple grooves in the same piece. And that enabled audiences, they actually brought audiences along to be able to accept, to become hipper, to be able to deal with rapidly changing types of grooves. It's a way of opening up your audience to a much, much broader palette of expression. So now, to put it all together and play, let's add a piano on top of the foundation that we just laid. Peter, John's your close colleague, so you do the honors, please.
Okay, I'm going to read from this list of credits because it's pretty extensive. After declining an oboe scholarship from the Juilliard School of Music, John went on to tour and record, playing piano and keyboards with such artists as Miles Davis, Steely Dan, Carly Simon, Barbra Streisand, Queen Latifah. He's played with the Los Angeles Philharmonic, as well as James Brown. He's played on a number of film scores, Wall-E, Finding Nemo, Aaron Brockovich, my favorite, The Godfather Part 3, A Bug's Life, and Austin Powers, The Spy Who Shagged Me. John is not only the piano player and musical director for my band, the Dr. Band. He leads an incredible big band that pays tribute to the musical legacy of Thelonious Monk. It's called the Monkestra. They will be coming to Chicago, so keep an eye out for that. But you get to hear him now, Mr. John Beasley.
Let me point out, while John's taking a seat, he also composes pro bono for films and podcasts for Nobel Peace Prize winning Doctors Without Borders. Anyway, so here we go. Using the Latin and swing grooves that Peter and Kristin demonstrated, this classic jazz trio, piano, bass, and drums, is going to play the classic jazz standard, Green Dolphin Street. As it moves between the two grooves, we'll hear what it means, and you should be thinking about what it means to move easily between two different paces, two different pulses of productivity, between the demands of increased tension and opportunities afforded when that tension is released. It's all there in the music. Peter Erskine, Kristin Korb, John Beasley, the Etudes Jazz Trio, Green Dolphin Street.